Okay.
Presentation here. We'll appreciate everybody being on the call here. I'm going to keep everybody on mute just so we don't have any issues with background noise. But if you have questions, you can type them in, or I think there's an option to raise your hand where I could unmute you as well. But appreciate everybody being here to listen to what we're going to be talking about, our new initiative here, the Tournament Team Share, which is a concept I would say that's been successful on a kind of on a smaller scale, club to club. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we're trying to sort of bring it to a bigger scale with the network of GBN. So we're excited about what this can do for not only the clubs and the head professionals, but also assistant professionals and their development and experiences. So we'll get into our slideshow here. First, I want to talk about a couple of the advantages and the benefits, and then we'll talk in more detail. And I'm sure some of you may have questions on how this might work, but the concept is that it's a mutually beneficial staff development program where if you're not familiar or haven't read anything we've had, basically a club would volunteer to host staff from another club, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or over how many, to assist them with one of their events. Let's call it the member guest event, where an assistant might come from the Northeast and go help a club in the Southwest and get a great experience, and then the benefits from that club standpoint, but also that assistant standpoint, and you really see a mutually beneficial program there. It's designed to provide added value to you as GBN members. Some of the specific advantages are, that the club will host qualified professionals from other GBN member clubs. They'll assist you with your premier tournament events. Then hopefully you would share, as a head professional, you would be able to share some of your skilled professionals with other clubs for their premier events. Creates an opportunity for your professional team to experience other facility tournament operations, establish and build career relationships, obviously just through meeting new people, meeting new golf professionals, meeting new members and guests at other clubs, learning leadership skills. They're sort of putting themselves into a situation that may not be as comfortable as just being at your own club. So that's, I think, something that everybody can benefit from. Enhancing personal development, and who would benefit from this? We see it as both the club operations, where the host club would have the benefit of having somebody that's I would say a qualified professional to come and assist them during, everybody can probably use an extra hand or two during the member guest, and also the tournament participants, better service during that event. And then the team members who are visiting there, obviously, for what they're learning and, ideas that they can bring, and also maybe, bring back to their clubs about what they saw. So wanted to, go through this first slide and just kind of talk about these advantages as we see them. And then, I'm going to let Phil talk a little bit. Phil Omby, which I apologize, didn't mention Phil is on the call here with us. So Phil, thank you for being here. But I'm going to let Phil talk a little bit, because he's actually had experience with this and had success with this. So Phil, can you tell us a little bit about how you manage that?
Absolutely, Patrick. Thanks. And I'll echo your thoughts, and hope everyone's doing well out there. And thanks very much for the participation today. This idea was kind of, I think all of us have thought about it in the past in our different organizations and operations, but Patrick and I were talking about the experience that we've had the last couple of years at our clubs, and was able to communicate with a couple of fellow colleagues from across the country, Kerry Cosby out at Southern Hills, Gus Jones out at Marty's Camp, and Scott and I up at Marion, and just mention the idea of thinking of not only, as Patrick mentioned earlier with these key points on the slide here, about development for our team members, but really thinking about, in our premier events that we have, member guest events, state hosted events or nationally hosted events, what can we do to get qualified people in there to give us the extra hands, whether they be administrative areas or, you know, relationship areas, whatever you may need for the event, and also be able to have qualified people to assist for the event so that you can take your team members and put them in front of your members where you want them to be out in front and be ambassadors for the club and ambassadors for the event. So in talking with these aforementioned guys I just indicated, we thought about, well, why can't we just share some of our team members for our big events? And so we isolated those the last year or so, and at our club we sent one assistant professional and our locker room manager out to Southern Hills for their member guests, which if you're familiar with it, Cary has a large member guest called the Swingaroo, and it's just I think 120 teams or something like that, so a really big event. So any kind of additional hand is beneficial, but more importantly for us, our team members were able to not only team with his group on the ground there and his professionals, get to know them, develop those relationships, and really watch and see some of the things, which obviously a lot of the things were the same, but be able to pick up some of those things that were different, some best practices that maybe they did that were not done at our facility, or they may not have seen at other places where they've been on staff, and bring those back. And the key element that we really noticed was when they came back, they were so motivated and so really focused and even more passionate about being in the business and about bringing those ideas back and being able to share with all of our team, which really just continued to add to the excitement of what we were doing in our culture at our club. And I think that what we've done is, with this idea, Patrick and I talking about it, putting it together and actually putting it out and having just a great response on it, is that it appears that a lot of us out there would benefit from this and would want to benefit from not only hosting some qualified professionals to come and be a part of our events, but more importantly to assist our team members develop their skills by going out and just being actually in the event, being a part of the event in whatever capacity the host professional deems appropriate. So I really think that as we continue to talk about it, it's just going to continue to get a lot of response and positive response from everybody involved.
That's great. Well, yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be some more questions on that. And I have a couple questions, Phil, I'm going to bring up as we get into our next our next slide here. So the way we sort of have this set up is that you would have a host club, and that individual would need to complete the registration form through GBN to let us know that they're interested in hosting staff for their events. Would you like to host, and would you like to share? Hopefully an individual that would want to host staff would also like to share their staff, sort of as a kind of a reciprocal, but obviously that's not a requirement. And then there's an information form. So once the registration, we would send you an information form. It's going to ask you, the event type, the dates, the details, what staff you're requesting, whether it's golf professionals, which most likely would be the case, or maybe you're looking for outside service, or maybe a merchandise manager or something like that. We can do everything we can to try to fill those requests. We would ask for any other specifics, and we'll talk a little bit about this, the housing options, travel options, which obviously that's, important. How do they get there? Who incurs those costs, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then from the individual assistant standpoint, whether they're at a club where the head professional sort of registers them, but will also, be sending out a registration form for the individual assistants to complete, that lets us know that they're interested in assisting at another facility. So we're really trying to be the, I would say, the kind of the bringing everybody together. We're coordinating. So we know who needs assistance, which clubs want to host, and then assistants that can potentially host there, and then connect them with the GBN member. And then hopefully we would understand their availability, so we can match it up with what the host club's needs are. So, some of the recommendations that we have, and Phil, I'll let you talk a little bit about this when I get through here, as to how you did this with Carrie and with Gus and with Scott. But we recommend, and these are, I think, going to be on an individual basis how these would be handled. But our recommendation is that the host club would offer a housing solution, as I'll call it. Whether they stay with a staff member, or maybe you have members that could potentially, have them stay over. We'd like for the host club to include this person on any meals that regular staff would receive at the club, just to defer some of the costs there. The team member or their club that is visiting, so say it's the assistant that's traveling, would incur, this is our recommendation, that that club would incur the costs, the travel costs associated with it. Again, on an individual basis, that might be different depending on who's dealing with who, but these are just sort of our recommendations, and we feel like maybe the best practices. The originating club where the assistant is visiting from, going, where he's going to somewhere else, so his club is encouraged to support that individual with their travel costs, and then we and Phil, I'll let you talk about this, but pay their normal wages for that day as they're visiting the other club. Oops, let me get back here. So tell us a little bit about that, Phil, and which I'm sure that everybody's interested to know how that worked when you did it.
Absolutely. I think that, what's recommended here is really what we were thinking, the four of us, when we were working this program out, and the whole focus of the program was really the investment in our teams, in the team that we had at our individual facility. We wanted to invest in trying to help the young professionals to gain their knowledge, gain experience, see different operations, and really just gain a perspective about the business. And obviously that comes back, fourfold. It comes back to help the individual that's out there doing it. It comes back to help the club where we are. It helps our members, and it certainly helps us in terms of leadership roles. So we were really looking at it as the investment is really on us sending our team members out. And so we wanted to help our colleagues by providing them with quality team members that could help them enhance their event, and not necessarily put any additional cost on them, because their costs are already there for that event. And so like you mentioned in the host club, for example, we were sending staff out to Southern Hills, and Southern Hills would try to work to where a staff member on their team may have an extra room where they could spend the night with them, or if not, maybe there's members on their that are in the event, or members at the club that always enjoy hosting people like that. And if not, then certainly they would help with any kind of accommodations at area hotels, in which case, again, the originating club, which in this case was us, we would incur that cost because we are investing in our team member. And then we would also invest by making sure that their travel arrangements and their travel expenses were covered, so that, again, the host club would host any meals that they would normally do for their staff, whether they be breakfast meals, lunch meals, or evening, depending on what hours they were asking to work. And so while our team member was visiting another club, then he was still with us and on our team, and it was really an investment from our standpoint. So we were still compensating him or her on their normal payroll. So the way that would work. So this is just what we're recommending, because it worked for us. It worked in a couple of years that we did it, so that if the assistants or staff members came from Marion and went out to Martis Camp, Marion would really bear the cost of all in the investment of their team members traveling, but Martis Camp would assist with accommodations and also assist with the meals while they're there. So the idea is really the investment in your team and trying to assist them in getting better and getting more experience and knowledge. But at the same time, the host club that's hosting a premier event, what you want to do is you want your event to have a higher quality by having quality people there at every turn. And, you know, in a lot of cases, these guys were used and utilized within the event in areas where you could take your team members that already knew the participants and the people playing, but they could be out in front of them more, whether it be at the scoreboard, whether it be at the tees when you're teeing on 2 tees or whatever it might be on the practice range, anything that they could do to try to help enhance the event for the members that they already knew and be ambassadors for their club. And you had quality people that you knew were back doing the administrative activities that were really assisting your team during the event. So, but again, I think the key point here, Patrick, and everybody on the call, is that the investment is in your team member, and that's what we really looked at, and that's what we're recommending for the team chair program as well.
And what kind of reactions, Phil, did you get from your staff when they came back from visiting the other clubs, or not reaction, but just what was your sense of their?
Well, as I mentioned before, there was, Patrick, it was just, you know, so much enthusiasm and motivation. It was just so easy to see when they came back. They wanted to tell everybody about their experience. They wanted to tell everybody not only about what they saw that might be different, but a lot of times what they saw that they could assist the other club in. These are some of the things that we do, and it might be a little bit more efficient that helped them. But they brought back a number of ideas that were great for different areas of our operation that they saw that they wouldn't have seen otherwise. And it carried forward into really creating that enthusiasm and that shared passion for, you know, the hospitality and the level of service that we really wanted to offer. And, you know, certainly a situation that they really thanked us for what we did, because they knew it was something that was going to enhance their career. So they were very grateful for that too, and I think it's just added again more to the feeling of the team, that they really felt like that they were you know, valued as a team member, valued to the point that we would invest in them and give them this type of opportunity. So it was extremely positive.
And I know you mentioned this a little bit about you know, when you were hosting the staff member, you had that individual, I guess, you know, their duties were such that allowed your staff to be more in front of the members, or maybe doing things that that you wanted them to be doing more of. But what would be, you know, for example, like an assistant from maybe Southern Hills or wherever comes and was there with you during your event, what would you specifically have them do?
Yeah, Daniel from Southern Hills was with us at last year, I remember, guest, and he assisted in the golf shop, you know, helping put out merchandise, you know, when you'd have that wave of individuals that would come through, and a lot of shirts and caps and golf balls and gloves and things would be going out. You know, he would assist with the restocking of that for the next area. He would also, when the scores started coming in, he was at the scoreboard. It's always great to have another set of hands and, you know, another person at the scoreboard to help either putting the scores up or either counting the scorecards and that kind of thing. So then the professionals on the team can be there to greet the players coming in and have an opportunity to shake hands and how to go and communicate and that kind of thing. So it was great. You know, he also helped on the practice area, you know, when we were getting set up in the morning and helping taking down in the evening, you know, all the different things that we have to do on a operational basis, day-to-day basis. He was available to help, and he knew what to do, so it wasn't a matter of trying to really explain how to do it or what to do. He already knew what to do, and it was great. It just really blended in, and I mean, within a few hours, it was like he was a member of the team. Mm-hmm. And I think more importantly, what we got back in our notes back from him, and the continued communication back between the team members as they continue to talk throughout the year, you know, it was about, you know, the relationship that was built and developed right then at that time. And that just adds to the network, which is what we're all about anyway, is continuing to develop those relationships with our colleagues.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I wanted to check and see if anybody has any questions here, and obviously Phil and I are available, you know, after this call to answer questions, and happy to set up individual calls with everybody to take them through this or answer their questions. So, but if anybody is logged on right now, rather than just listening and wants to type a question in, that's great. If not, you know, we will follow up with everybody. But Phil, really appreciate your input and your experiences on this. And I think it sounds like, I know in my time as an assistant, this would have been something I would have been highly interested in, and as also as a head professional and director of golf, of having, you know, run the member guest, having some qualified staff to be there, certainly would be great. So I think this is something that can really be a great benefit for a lot of people. So
That's great. Thanks, Patrick.
Appreciate
Look forward to partnering with all these guys and helping them do the same thing. It'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, if anybody, you know, please email me afterwards with any questions, and happy to answer them. And we'll talk to everybody soon. So, Phil, again, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Patrick.
All right.